Okay, ma'am. Very good evening to everyone. I would, on behalf of Tagore Engineering College Department of Management Studies, welcome you all for this afternoon session of short-term training program on emotional intelligence for teaching staff in enhancing efficiency of students. I would like to thank our today's chief guest, Dr. Uttira, ma'am, Vice Principal of MOP Vaishnava College for Women, for accepting our invitation. Thank you, ma'am. So, participants, today's session is about effective pedagogy for enhancing students' efficiency. So, I welcome you all once again. Now, I would like to call upon our head of the department, Dr. P. Priyadarshini, to introduce our chief guest. Ma'am, please, ma'am.
Good evening, participants. So thank you for joining the session on time. And I take an immense pleasure and feel very excited to welcome Dr. Uttira, Vice Principal and Head PG and Commerce Department of MOP Vaishnav College for Women. Why I feel delighted is always being associated with Uttira ma'am is it's like a very heart to heart feel. She always carries a smiling face, and I have known her for years. So she's a very right person for this session. So a very short introduction about Dr. Uttira. She has been awarded as a best teacher for 3 consecutive years, and she has received the award for maximum number of paper presentation. And adding feather to her cap, she has received a service award for service rendering beyond the call, so which is given for her sincerity. So I have known, I'm fortunate enough to know this personality for more than a decade of years. So right from the day, I've seen us as assistant professor and a research scholar. Even when ma'am has become a vice principal, she has been always very sincere in her work. So I even have tried to inherit some of her traits of sincerity and being on time and taking any task with more responsibility. So she has been a visiting. She is a visiting faculty of various university, and she has hosted several programs in MOP Vaishnav College, conferences like international conference, national conference, and entrepreneurship program and student development activities. And she has been a resource person for different programs organized by different universities and different institutes. So very happy to have you with us for this session, and thank you for joining, and thank you for sparing your time. And she is always recognized as the very best teacher in spite of her administrative load. She always never gives up her classes. So I have heard it from her faculty and even from ma'am. So that shows the attachment and the bonding she has for teaching, and her way of delivery is something is astonishing, and it is something different from the others. So ma'am, it is not just simply I'm to introduce you. So very happy to have you, and thank you for joining us, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Priyadarshini, for that wonderful introduction. I really don't know whether I'm worth that much of praise from you, but thank you very much. Feels nice. And a big thanks to Tagore Engineering College, the Department of Management Studies, for having brought up this this whole AACTE program, sponsored program on discussing about how emotional intelligence of the students can be improved by the teachers, by the work that can be done by the teachers. This is something that's very passionate. This I'm very passionate about. So a big thanks to the organizers, especially Dr. Priyadarshini, for having thought about me when this concept of this particular topic came into your minds. Thank you so much for that, and hearty welcome to all the participants also, so who've been spending so much of time. That clearly shows the very fact that you have spent so much of time for learning about the emotional intelligence and how this can, how developing emotional intelligence of students is very important, and as teachers, how we can contribute to that. The very fact that you have spent so much of time clearly indicates the kind of passion that you have, the kind of the kind of liking that you have for the students, and it definitely gives us a lot of joy when we see our students succeed. That is in fact one of the the primary motives behind anybody who comes into teaching. There's nothing which gives us more happiness than to see our students succeed. Okay, but so what can we do from our end, from what bit can we provide to these students is the question of contention and the topic of discussion today, right? 1 minute. Yeah, is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to talk about what are the effective pedagogy for enhancing the student efficiency in today's program, right? Okay. So basically, I am somebody who believes that, education is definitely not the question of cramming figures and facts into the minds of these students. It is making them understand. It is training them and making their minds to think. Okay, which is very, very important. Okay, it is a common thing. It's very commonly said that mind is definitely not a vessel that just needs to be filled in. Okay, but it is wood that needs to be ignited. So we are the ones who are going to ignite, who will have to ignite the minds of the students, and all that they need. Especially today's students are so smart and they are so self-made that all that they need is that one spark of igniting that is required. Okay, for that we need to put in some efforts, and that is the purpose behind this particular session. Okay, so why are we talking about this is that today's students require active participation. They like to have an active participation in class, and we need to develop their cognitive skills, which is what is very important to make them industry ready, to make them be to take up higher roles in the organizations that they're going to work in or function in future. So we find a situation where it is high time that educational institutions, we all the time we keep talking about the industry academia divide, and there's always this big fight which is going on between the industry and academia, saying that our input is your output and our output is your input, and all that story has been going on for so long. But then it's high time we as educational institutes respond to the fact that there is a lot of innovation that is required. There's a lot of pedagogical changes that is required in our own mindsets, because we find that nowadays there is a huge our student base is a very heterogeneous. They come from very segmented backgrounds, they're very different kind of backgrounds, because of probably the mobility that is possible these days. Okay, I'm talking about the pre-corona ages, where we find that we have people from different backgrounds, from different ideologies, people who have different skill sets and things like that. So we need to have we are dealing with a heterogeneous population, so which means we need to accordingly I mean, we can't use this one size fits all kind of thing. We need to adapt to these requirements of these students. So accordingly we may have to change our pedagogy, we may have to change our approach to the teaching itself, right? So that is the purpose behind I guess the whole seminar or the short term course that you're going through itself is dealing with this, and especially this particular session. Okay, but how are we going to do this? Now we know that it is required, we know that it is high time we get into it. Okay, but how are we going to do it? One of the most important thing is the changes in the pedagogical approaches that we have to do. There needs to be a paradigm shift from teacher centric methods to learner centric methods. The process definitely has to be modified. Of course, we've been talking about this for many years now, but how much of it has been implemented, how much of it has been actually rationalized and put into practice is the question. We definitely need some kind of blended teaching methods. We need to make the students self-made and come to class with some kind of a pre-knowledge, instead of basically it is this mindset that we as teachers have, that I am the boss, I have to teach everything. The students should come with no, they should come as a clean slate and things like that. But I don't think that all that is going to work now. We need to actually teach the students how to learn on their own. Okay, I've heard many professors, like, especially, let's say, for instance, just for an example, I'm telling I've heard many computer science professors saying that, like, how many softwares can we keep teaching, because one software that we teach now, or one language that we teach now, by the time they move out of college, by the time they go into the industry, that particular software becomes redundant. Okay, so I always strongly believe that, obviously it's not possible for us to teach everything under the sun for us, for the students, and especially considering the volatility of the situation where things are getting so fastly updated. Who would have thought that we would have had a seminar of this kind remotely, sitting in our own houses? We would have never thought about it probably a year or so back. This would have been unimaginable. Every time whenever we arrange for a seminar, I keep telling people, this is the first time in the only after this methodology of Zoom or Gmeet started coming in, have I actually sat down and listened to these seminars. All the time we are more concerned about whether the next speaker is coming, whether the next speaker, the cab has been sent for the next speaker, has the lunch arrived, has the tea arrived, has this come, that come, all that. Our minds are all the time on that only. So, but now, the concept has changed, and it's up to us to adapt to that change. So as teachers, what we need to do is actually teach the students to get themselves adapted to any situation. Teach the students how to quickly learn and grasp things. Okay, if you're able to do that, if you're able to provide that skill to the students, the rest of it the student will take care in the changing environment, wherever they are working, wherever they are going to function as employees. They will pick up on the go. But what is important is that igniting the spark which matters. We need to teach them how to adapt and how to quickly grasp things. That is very, very important. Okay, so the pedagogy that we are going to follow must be in such a way that these kind of skills are imbibed in them, into the pedagogy itself. Like, of course, many colleges have nowadays started providing a lot of soft skills training for the students. Even remote rural colleges have started thinking about providing soft skills to the students, understanding how much these communication and presentation skills are very, very important for the students. A lot of people have started going in for that. But I feel, more than this being taught as a skill, okay, it must be imbibed in your pedagogy itself. Of course, you can teach it as a skill, but just doesn't stop by just teaching it as a skill, as a soft skill, and forget about it. Okay, what we must be doing is, you'll have to blend it into your teaching methods. You'll have to bring it into a part of your pedagogy, so that all the soft skills that their students have learned will become a part of their life. Okay, and thereby they will be able to become global. They will be able to develop the global competencies which are required in working in today's world, especially these days. We find that there's no boundaries, there are no there's no geographical boundaries and things like that. So our students must be globally accepted. That is what is very, very important. All this is possible only if the education leadership, the curriculum development, and there must be a lot of research that goes into effective pedagogy. How those pedagogy, sometimes it's nice on paper, but it's very difficult to actually implement it. Okay, so we need to understand which pedagogy. There's whole list of pedagogy that is available, but we need to know which pedagogy will be suitable for which of our students. Okay, so that is very important. That is where our role as a teacher lies, in matching the available pedagogy with the efficiency of our students, with the mind of our students, how to collaborate that, and how to bring that, how that matching and that synergy can be established, is what is the I feel that is the job of us teachers as such. There's definitely a paradigm shift that is going on, and that is especially in these 8 9 months after corona had set in, the pandemic had set in. I think as teachers we have learned a lot. In my 25 years of experience, what I have learned in my 25 years of experience, and what if I compare it with what I've learned in these 8 months, it's so much more of an insight into how to approach teaching to this current generation. Okay, there's so much of a change that is required. There is because yeah, Priyadarshini ma'am was telling me that you had yesterday a session with Dr. Lata Lavanya about the millennial generation. Yeah, that is the generation that we are dealing with, right? Okay, and their requirements are totally different. Okay, gone are the days of a teacher based learning teaching approach. It's more of a student based approach that is required, because the stakeholders, the primary stakeholders that we are dealing with, that is the students, are the millennial students, and their requirements are absolutely different. They are super smart individuals, but it's up to us to tap that potential in these millennial students. That is where our role as a teacher comes in, right? Okay, so it is high time we move to a learner centric method. Okay, now how do we do this is the question. Okay, there is this basic philosophy of the 6 C's which you can keep in mind whenever you're talking about moving or going through this paradigm shift from teacher learning teacher centric methods to learner centric methods. Okay, so let's quickly see what these 6 C's are. The first one is choice. Okay, which means there as I already told you all, we're dealing with a heterogeneous group. Okay, so it's not possible for a one size fits all, or a blanket rule that can be applied, or a blanket method that can be applied. We have advanced learners, we have slow learners, we have no learners also, for that matter. Okay, but that doesn't mean these no learners are not capable. They have you need to identify what is the potential in that particular individual. Do we have the time for all that? We have to definitely make the time for all that, because that is the priority of the teaching community now. Okay, the second so you must give a lot of choice to the students. So you must have a combination of pedagogy through which you will be able to target the advanced learners, the slow learners. All kinds of people should be involved in the process. That is possible only if we give them diverse learning possibilities, because the learning abilities of the individuals are totally different. Okay, the second C that you have to keep in mind is collaboration. Okay, nowadays people love to work as teams. Okay, so that concept of teams has come up greatly. And not only that, not only with the student community, we find that even in office setup, in the corporate world, we find that everything works as a team. Okay, you need to teach them the team dynamics. You need to teach them how to behave in a team, how to work as a team, how to get leverage the best of the team dynamics and things like that, which we can slowly imbibe by bringing in the collaborative culture and peer learning and peer teaching and stuff like that. Okay, the next C that you can keep in mind is, let's say, communication. Okay, I need not elaborate on this. All of us know how important these days communication is. You may be having a lot of technical skills, but then how are you able to communicate it? That is very, very important these days. Okay, because nobody has the time to delve into and see whether you have the technical skills, unless it is being communicated. The next C that you have to keep in mind is critical thinking. Okay, this is again a very, very important, because when today's student becomes an employee of tomorrow, this is a very important skill that needs to be developed. Okay, he has to solve problems, he has to he has to be quick on his feet and quick on his mind, for which he needs to develop the concept of critical thinking, right? Okay, and that is so if we can imbibe all this into our pedagogy, it becomes so much more easier, rather than teaching what is creativity, thinking, teaching what is what is creativity, what is communication, what is collaboration, all that. Instead, if we can bring in all these concepts into our pedagogy, it becomes so much more important and so much more easier for the students to take it. So we are dealing with the 21st century students, okay? So which means we need to know what are the 21st century skills that is required, because gone are those days. Even your communication, presentation skills have become, become yesteryear's skills, But what are the skills which are more important nowadays is the life and career skills, because we're talking about lifelong learning. I just told you about the software example where you need to go on learning in just like how in a software industry, in every industry for that matter, things are going on evolving, which means we have to ensure that the students have the skill of lifelong learning. Okay, so life and career skills is very, very important to these students. And apart from that, the information media and technology skills is very, very important, because like, even for instance, if the let's say for instance, the basic jobs that are provided to a fresher right out of college, let's say for instance an arts and science college, a BCom graduate or a BBA graduate, would be probably to take up with the job of a financial analyst. Okay, now when they go into a job of a financial analyst, obviously they need to know how to collate information, how to search for the information, how to analyze this information, how to present this information. So that is the job of financial analyst. That is the basic job that any of the BCom or the BBA students would get. Okay, so they need to get all those skills, the search engine optimization skills, all that must be provided in as a part of the pedagogy itself. Okay, and apart from that, the learning and the innovation skills, the communication and the collaboration skills, these are the 21st century skills which are very, very important. So how do we do that is, when we talk about learning and innovation, we need to concentrate on developing the creativity of the students, the critical thinking and the problem solving abilities of the students, how they can work as teams, how they can communicate within the teams. As I told you, how they perform in teams, the team dynamics, all that is very, very important. When we're talking about life and career, now we're talking about the gig economy. So much of talk is going on the gig economy, especially given this situation where people are working remote, people are working from homes, people are there are virtual teams that you need to deal with, there are people who are working as freelancers, there are people who are working as part-time. There's so much of flexibility that is there, and that kind of flexibility, you should teach the students how to be flexible, how to adapt to various situations, how to have that self direction in these students, and how to have that initiative, take that initiative, how given a task, how they need to take up the responsibility, take the ownership, and take the responsibility to take up certain tasks, and how that all that will help the students in the future to become more productive, to become accountable, how to become to take up the leadership roles in future and things like that. Okay, and of course all of you know about the ICT literacy, that is very, very important, the information literacy, the media literacy, that is a very, very important. Okay, so all this means that there's going to be an absolute reversal of the teacher's role. Okay, so gone are the days where, as I told you, the teacher is the boss, the king and the queen of the class. Okay, that stage is gone. Now we just have to be a guide on this side rather than the sage on the stage. Okay, meaning in the sense that we should let them do things, and we only must be like facilitators. Okay, but for that there's a lot of planning. It's not being a facilitator doesn't mean that you are giving up your responsibility, doesn't mean you're giving up your role as a teacher. To be a facilitator, there is a lot of planning that is required. There is that is where the role of the lesson plans and your manuals, all that comes, because it's not easy being a facilitator. It is very easy being a teacher. You come to class and teach, that's a totally different ball game. But being a facilitator, you need to make them work and bring out work from them, which is very, very difficult, actually requires a lot of planning, which means by by taking a backstage, and being a guide on the side, and being a facilitator, you will be able to develop multiple intelligence in these students, which is very, very important. It's not like in today's environment, it's not enough if the students are given are made to imbibe just one or two skills. today's situation is in such a way that you must be a master of everything, right? Okay. So there are a lot of, there should be a combination and a multiplicity of skills that is required. Because you find, nowadays there are it's quite common, suddenly you find an engineer taking up a management job, you find an engineer suddenly becoming a film director and things like that. Those concept of airtight compartments of jobs have gone now. There's so much of creativity in the jobs that is required, which means there is a lot of multiple intelligence which has to be developed by the students. So we need to go beyond beyond the books, and we need to ensure that we have an educational philosophy in the higher educational institutions, which whereby we move out of a teacher's role and go into a facilitator's role, which is very, very important. So how can that be done? That can be done only if we as teachers become culturally responsive. That means, we have to believe that students can achieve. Everybody has something in them. We need to identify what that something is there in these students. We have to build a community of leaders, a community of learners, whereby they can learn at any point of time in their career. That you need to put in their minds that learning doesn't stop in college, and it is a continuous learning process that that we have to put in their minds. And we need to change our instructional methods. We need to change our pedagogy according to the people, because after all, we are dealing with Gen Y, we're dealing with the millennials, and this Gen Y is a very different kind of mold. I'm sure all of us would have felt that of late, the past 5 years or so, the whole culture of the students have changed. There are a lot of things that have changed because of their family circumstances, because of overindulgence of the parents, because of the fact that they are technologically savvy, and this is here to stay, right? Okay. I'm not going to dwell too much into it because you already had a session on this. But we need to understand that this Gen Y, or let's say the millennial generation, and soon we are even going into Gen Z also. So these students are super confident. They feel that they're entitled to it, in the sense that they feel that come on, I want this. I need this. This is exactly what I came for. So please deliver all this to me. That is the kind of mindset that these students come with. They are super ambitious. They have come with high expectations, and they want to understand the rules. They want to understand the process. So it's gone are the days where you can just tell them something and expect them to do. They want to know why are we doing this. They want to know the meaning about every single thing. They want to know why we are doing this pedagogy, why are we giving this assignment to them, what are they going to learn out of this assignment, what is the outcome of this assignment. So all that is something that you need to address upon. And there are people who would require immediate feedback. You need to tell them exactly where they're going wrong. They are perfectly okay with accepting where they're going wrong, but they need to know. Okay, they need to know where they're going wrong, where they have done right, and where they're good, where they're bad. All that they expect. Okay. And our students these days are more of surfers and scanners rather than digesters, which means they believe in getting an overall idea rather than in-depth knowledge, because they want to learn so much that they don't want to go in depth into something. They don't want to go in depth into something. They would rather prefer to know on a peripheral. Okay, so if we understand all this, then we will be able to tailor make our pedagogy according to that. Okay, so these people are as I told you, they want immediate feedback. They need directions, etc. Okay, so I really don't want to stress more on this because of the fact that you've already done this. Okay, so we find that most of teachers spend most of their time on lecturing and very little bit on giving student independent work to these students or group work to these students, etc. But that culture makes we need to understand that that culture of lecturing is hardly any way effective, right? Okay, so which means we need to go in, satisfy the students' expectations by developing giving them real world situations, giving them teaching them the real world applications, make them function in a real world situation, make it very clear, and give them organized material. Sometimes they prefer to learn on their own, because that's the culture which is coming up. Sometimes to a certain extent they don't mind learning on their own, so let's tap it. Okay, so the idea behind this is that if you give them certain work that they can do it on their own, that much more time is saved for you in class. So which means that time you can use for a face-to-face contact with these students, and deal with each student in a different manner, because that's the common grouse that all teachers have is, come on, I have 70 students in class, how do you expect me to deal with each of these students, right? Okay, yes, it is difficult, but if we can use things like flipped classroom, or if you can use blended teaching methods, you can definitely do it. Okay, you can definitely look at providing diverse pedagogy for different students, depending upon their capability, depending upon their requirements. You can definitely do it. Okay, provided you can you can give them that experience of learning on their own, make them responsible for their studies. I think it's high time, it's really high time to make them responsible for their studies. Give them give them a situation where you can give them role playing, you can give them simulation. There's so many gamification tools which are available. Priyadarshini ma'am was telling me that in the morning also you had a session on gamification. So there are so many tools which are readily available these days, right? It's up to us to find out what these tools are and how to use these, and how to ensure that we get here to there. Okay, meaning how do we, what kind of competencies do we need to develop in these students, so that we make the students understand, give them that experience, give them that give them that practical knowledge, so that they will be able to develop themselves into trained employees. That is very important. Okay, of course there are a lot of challenges which needs to be faced. There are too many competencies, there are different levels that we need to deal with. Assessment methods keep varying and all that. Yes, it is definitely a challenge, but using some of these methods that probably we'll just quickly look into, you will be able to definitely do it. Okay, the first one that I would like to concentrate on what we call as outcome based education. I'm sure through this pandemic situation, many of us have attended a lot of webinars on these, and kind of we know about what is meant by outcome based education. But I think it's time we really go into our systems and actually implement it, because it is the need of the hour. Definitely, we need to know how to implement outcome-based education. So basically, let me just give you a small gist about what is meant by outcome-based education. As the name suggests, what we need to do is we need to look at what do we want our students to become. Okay, like say for instance, you can look at your students as to how they will be, what they need to know immediately after leaving college. So probably, and then after 5 years from now, after 10 years from now. Okay, so let's just keep our threshold at that, from 10 years from now. So we need to know, we need to understand what are all the job positions that they may be taking, or what are all the alternatives that are available to them. Let's say, for instance, a BCom graduate. I mean, I keep referring to BCom because I teach the commerce stream, but you can always extend it to any field that you are in, right? Okay, so let's say for instance you're talking about a BCom student. Okay, so immediately after completing college, completing their BCom degree, what kind of jobs that are available? Okay, look into the job profiles of these jobs and see what are the skill sets that are required for these jobs, and then how does this progress if they continue in this path. Where will they go next after 5 years? Look at that and see what are all the skills that are required in that. 10 years down the line, where will they be? Okay, look into all that, look into their job profiles, do look into their job description that is required, what is required to perform in that particular job, and try to imbibe those skills into your pedagogy, into your syllabi. That is in simple terms, that is what we call as outcome based education, right? Of course, there's a lot more to it. This itself will take 2 days for us to really understand what outcome based education is all about. In a gist, it's kind of a dream that you're putting for these students, okay? And you're making that dream for the students a reality by imbibing all these skills, all these requirements into your syllabi, into your curriculum, into your pedagogy, whereby you don't necessarily teach it as a skill. Through your pedagogy itself, you're going to ensure that all this all that is required for them to become successful immediately after completing their course, after 5 years, after 10 years, whatever is required, you're kind of, little by little you're putting it, little by little you're putting it into the system, into their minds, into their system now itself. Okay, I'm sure all of you all know about the PSOs, that is the the program specific outcomes, the COs, that is the course objectives, the course outcomes, and all that. So I really am not going to go into detail about this, because as I told you, there's so much that is required in this. But if we put our minds into it, when we are doing this, it may be very boring, it may be very irritating also for us, but please remember, this is one method by which you can give the best to these students. Okay, because you put your mind into it and you start thinking from the students perspective. You start thinking about what will the students need in the future, and thus try to bring all those skills into the syllabi in when they are studying itself, right? Okay, so in such a way that you can design your course in such a way that these competencies that you want to have in them, in the students, are brought into the syllabi itself. Okay, so probably if time permits, we can look into a sample PSO later. Okay, so you need to when all this is set, when your outcome based education system is set, automatically you will be able to develop a lot of teaching strategies. You will be able to develop a lot of teaching strategies, whereby you can give them pre-assignments, you can give them assessments, you can give them you can develop your assessments in such a way that it will bring in all these skills into the picture itself. Okay, now I would like to stress a little bit about this concept known as TPCK. Okay, now all of us are familiar with probably the PCK part, that is the pedagogical content knowledge part. Okay, that is this what we mean by TPCK is the technology, pedagogical, content, knowledge. Okay, so it's a combination of all these four aspects that needs to be taken into consideration. That is the content knowledge, the pedagogical knowledge, the technological knowledge. All these has to be taken into consideration. And the idea is, the whole universe is your students, right? The context is your students. The idea is what combination of technological knowledge and the pedagogical knowledge and the content knowledge has to be merged is the what to say, it is the idea of the teachers. The teachers should know, the faculty should know in what combination should they use these three types of knowledge, which can be used in the right combination to to deliver to the students. So some students, more of technology, less of content, less of pedagogy may be important. Okay, so for some students, more of pedagogy, less of content, less of technology may be important. So depending upon the students category, you may have to use this combination and arrive at a possible solution for by which you can render or deliver your inputs to the students, right? Okay, so that's one thing that you have to remember. So technology in the classroom is something that is very, very important, especially we've seen how in these 8 months we've used technology to the maximum. As I told you, we never even knew such things existed, but we have used technology to the greatest extent possible, that probably when we go back to regular classes, we won't know how to deal with it. Only to that extent we have used technology, which is a very, very important part. So even after probably even after this pandemic is over, we should see how we can integrate technology into our day-to-day way of the pedagogy. If we can integrate technology, it will be a great thing, right? Okay, So what are the goals for the 21st century teachers, which will help us to develop the emotional intelligence of these students, guide the students into, into becoming well-rounded individuals? Is that we, as we already discussed, we need to understand the diversity of the students. We need to design a learning mechanism or a learning environment. Remember, I'm not using the word teaching environment. I'm using the term learning environment. You need to develop a learning environment, plan a learning environment, develop, very, very effective instructional strategies for the students, which will help us to identify, effective classroom management strategies and understand the diversity of the students and provide what is required to them. Okay. So let's little bit deal with the 21st century pedagogies, which is definitely going to help the students develop, their emotional intelligence and become well-rounded individuals. Is that, you need to enable, you need to empower and enable the learners, which means, as we already saw, give them a lot of pre-reads and help them, come with a specific set of knowledge to the class. Let them not come as a clean slate. Let them not come as let them not come as without any pre knowledge. Let them come with a with some kind of a pre knowledge, which will help them to actually understand what's happening in class in a much better manner, right? And also help them, that will also help them to develop the concept of personalized learning with them. Okay. All this is possible with what we call as project based learning, inquiry based learning, learning through with the help of games and play methods and nature learning, the arts based learning. All this is possible only if we have more of activities in class, which is very, very important, right? Okay. Now these activities will help us to create that emotional learning, will help them to become social individuals. Okay. You can use peer tutoring, you can use round table discussions with these students, you can have student presentations, help them to develop independent study. You can have performance based learning methods, you can have collaborative learning methods, storytelling, which is a very, very easy method with which you can you can have an activity in class and bring out those concepts that you normally you would have simply taught to these students, right? Okay. You can kind of make the students focus on interdisciplinary learning methods. Okay. Design based methods. You can help the students guide them towards having a one-to-one learning with the teachers. Okay. All this is possible if you plan it in advance, and it's not something that just comes out of the way. It is something that you need to do a lot of planning. Okay. So these are some of the 21st century skills which you can easily imbibe into your curriculum itself. Okay. All that is required is a little bit of thinking. All that is required is a little bit of motivation from our end, a little bit of planning that is required from our end. Okay. Now, I'm just going to give you a few examples that we've been using in our college. Okay. So to have, to bring in this kind of a collaborative learning experience. So we use things like, business on campus initiative. We let the students do a one-day business in college to develop their entrepreneurial skills. We set up an R&D lab, R&D meaning nothing great, like at their level, whatever they can do. We give them strategic management, marketing sessions, like let's say, for instance, we're teaching them something on retail marketing. We ask them to visit a mall, and then we ask them to see what is the store setup, what kind of, methods are they using to, to understand about the store atmospherics and things like that. Okay. And we ask that we have, we make them do observation sessions of live events. Like let's say, for instance, we're teaching them about event management. Then we ask them to visit a particular event and see how it is being managed and what are the things, what were the flaws that were there, how these flaws can be overcome and things like that. Okay. So if we have some kind of a directional learning, it's going to be really very important for these students. Okay. And one very, 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 one very nice method which I have found that the students really enjoy is learning through movies and learning through documentaries, learning through field visits, seminars and presentations made by the students. Okay. So I've just made a list of things that we normally do in our college. So, I mean, you can use it according to your requirements. You can adapt it according to your situation and things like that. So we use what we call as a brown bag seminar. You know, a lot of practical demonstrations are done by the college, by the faculty along with the students. And we have something known as a wall magazine, which is especially, you know, for journalism students. This is great. This is a great advantage. In fact, you know, we have a college magazine which is run by the students, by the journalism students. We do a lot of brainstorming sessions. We do a lot of community surveys, mind mapping that is done, role play, games, storytelling session, all that we do. Okay. So, I mean, I'm sure all of you all know what is mind mapping. So I've just given you a hint on what is mind mapping. This is something that I did in class when I was teaching them about what is meant by femvetizing. Okay. So I taught them how to think about femvetizing. So I just told them this. I didn't even tell them what is femvetizing, you know. I told them just, you know, a little bit of gist about femvetizing. That's it. So this is the mind map that they had come up with. This is not what I did. This is what the students have done. So, you know, you can let their mind think, go in a freewheeling direction, and that will help them to, you know, help them to really think in advance, really let their mind think, and which is very, very important in towards situation, in today's situation, right? Okay. There are so many things, like, you know, you can do a what if situation, you know, you can ask them what if questions. Like, say for instance, I do this in my financial management classes, you know, when we're doing capital budgeting, or when you're doing cost of capital, you know, I develop what we call as a what if questions, you know, in the sense, what will happen if this is the situation, what will happen if the situation changes, okay, what will happen if you want your EPS to be this much, you know, what should you do to arrive at your EPS at this value, what is the right combination that you have to choose, okay, what will happen if your debentures increases, what will happen if your equity shares increases, okay. So these are known as what if situations, whereby, you know, you let the minds of the students think on their own, okay. There's so many methods like this that you can use, you know. There's what we call, our media department uses this, what we call is discussion boards and blogs and online communities, especially, you know, these days, now that we're talking about millennial students, there's blogs and social media, online communities is something that they just love to do. Digital storytelling, all this, these are things that they just simply love to do. Give them a concept, ask them to prepare a video on it, okay, they will just enjoy it and do it. So at the same time they're learning, they are also, you know, they're also enjoying what they're doing. That is very important. Okay, we have something known as an online hunt. Okay, so this is an activity which we give, wherein we make the students, you know, search for something in the Google. Okay, it's not something that's readily, you know, they give them a question and they ask them to get the answer within a few minutes. Okay, and the answer for this is not readily available on Google. They'll have to do search, you know, they'll have to go in and find out what is the answer, right? Okay, so this helps them to develop their search engine optimization skills. Okay, we encourage students to take up a lot of online courses, which also you can do. Okay, now I was telling you about how we can teach through movies. You know, I've just made a list of probable movies that you can, you can. I'm not saying you'll have to make them see the whole movie. This is where your role as a teacher comes in, right? You must probably you can take time and watch the whole movie and just take the bits that has to be shown to these students. You can make a compilation of these bits which can be made given to these students. And in fact, you can give this also as an activity to the students. Ask them, we were doing a course on forensic audit for the students. Okay, so we asked them to come up with a documentary which are clips of movies in which financial frauds have been committed, and how these financial frauds have been unearthed in these movies and things like that, you know. And they really enjoy doing it. Okay, so you can see for yourself. There are so many movies that you can take, you know, like, let's say for instance, you know, if you're talking about stress management, if you're talking about networking, you can show them Three Idiots. If you're talking about salesmanship, what better can you how better can they learn about salesmanship than seeing Rocket Singh, for that matter? Okay, now if you're talking about teamwork, you can show them Chuck Day, you can show them Lagan. If you're talking about group dynamics, you can show them Chuck Day. And there are so many such movies. You know, if you're talking about something as serious as IPR, there's this movie called Flubber. where there's so much of thoughts that have gone into the concept of IPR. As I was telling you, when you're talking about accounting fraud detection, forensic accounting, you can show them movies like the Wolf of the Wall Street, Catch Me If You Can, all these things. There are so many such movies that are there. Even if you don't have time to make them see the entire movie, you can just show them those relevant parts or the relevant clips in that particular movie. We also have this concept known as a practice school in our college. Okay, so what we do is, as I told you, journalism, there are certain areas in our college which we have identified and given it to the students to handle the whole thing. Like, let's say for instance, the college newspaper is done by the journalism department. Most of the events are managed by the BBA department, students. The MIS of the college, to a certain extent, is maintained by the computer science department. The software that is required for the college, these small softwares, we make the students themselves do it. Okay, our food science management department runs a health cafeteria in our college. Our computer science students are taught how to do hardware troubleshooting. Okay, let's say for instance, the BBA department, who is there are a lot of entrepreneurs coming out of the BBA department. They are given opportunities to display their new product development, business on campus, and things like that. So these becomes what we call as a practice school. Okay, and as we already saw, you can use game as a teaching tool to a great extent. You can it may be simple board games like Snake and Ladder or Monopoly. It's just that little bit of innovativeness and creativity that is required from our end. You can give them a treasure hunt. You can have a jigsaw puzzle. There you can people who are teaching accounts and things like that. You can even have a number crossword and things like that. These are not at all difficult. Okay, it's just that you need to put in your mind a little bit. But once you do it, you can use it for the next 3-4 years. You don't even have to keep revising it again and again. You can just simply use this for a long period of time, right? Okay, like let's say for instance, let's go a little bit more intellectual. You can, if you're teaching them ratio analysis for the MBA faculty, if you're teaching them ratio analysis, you can give them real-time companies balance sheets and profit and loss account and make them prepare the ratios, make them analyze the ratios. You can ask them to do a mock stock trading session in college, in class itself. We actually ran a mock mutual fund in our college itself. Okay, in fact, our college has something known as Akriti. Okay, which is a mock company which is run by these students. We even declare dividends, and for the past 10 years we've been giving 100% dividends. There are shareholders, so the students get to know how a company actually works, how a board meeting has to be conducted, and stuff like that. You can conduct a lot of, you can do a geographical analysis, you can do an industrial analysis, a company analysis. There's so many things, there's no end to it. Okay, I can just go on talking about this. You can arrange for field trips, a day with an entrepreneur, a day with an auditor, a day with a CEO, a day with a stockbroker. You can ask them to take up short internships. There's so many things that can be done. But what does all this teach them? That is what is important. It definitely gives them a lot of skills. Like say for instance, you can ask them to watch a very a very, very important, high octave, very thrilling cricket match, and ask them to come out with concepts relating to time management, team building, things like that. Or you can teach them management lessons through, let's say, Dhoni's life, for that matter. They would just simply love it. In fact, when I was teaching management to the students, I made them come out with management concepts in Mahabharata, in Ramayana, in Tirukural. And I was amazed at the kind of inputs that the students came up with. I didn't do anything. I just told them, see, there is a lot of management thoughts that you can learn from Tirukural. That's all I told them. And when they made the research, they made the they made the analogies, and how it can be, how they can link it to the current situation, how they can link it to management concepts. It was real fun, and it was such a great learning for us also. If you're teaching them different leadership styles, probably you can ask them to compare Dhoni versus Kohli kind of thing. So many things like this you can do. Okay, you can use what we call as a project-based learning method. You can do what we call as a team-based learning method, where you can divide the whole class into various teams, into small teams, in such a way that the combination, the composition of the team is very important. Okay, you need to have, that is where your role as a facilitator or as a teacher comes in, right? Okay, you need to have a team which will consist of one advanced learner, one person who is technologically strong, one person who is conceptually strong, one person who can present very well. His or her communication skills is very good. Okay, so when you form a team like this, but for that you need to know your students, right? Okay, you need to take that extra mile, go that extra mile to know about your students. When you do that, you can form such teams, so that there's a lot of learning that goes within the teams, right? A person who is good at technology can teach technological skills to the others. A person who is very good in communication can teach how to present better to his teammates. So that way, these team methods are very, very useful. We have what we call as a flipped classroom method, where they come with a you give them some pre-work. They come with that pre-work. We discuss that pre-work in class, okay, and then we give some more additional inputs. Again, they go back home and reminiscent on this, and they come back with their understanding about the concept. Okay, so these are some methods which we can very, very easily use. Okay, but for this, what you have to remember is your lesson plans are very, very important. Okay, so let me just show you probably a sample. Are you able to see this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, let me just show
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
a sample of a lesson plan that we prepared. Okay, this is for a very rare subject called sports marketing, which has never been there. I mean, this was the first time that we have heard of it, and this is the first time that we had introduced in our college. So it took us a long time to actually understand about the subject, but we felt that it's something it's a very new thing. So we wanted to bring it to these students. Okay, so we prepared a lesson plan, a detailed lesson plan as to what are the objectives, what has to be done on a day wise. On a day wise, we made a list of what are the videos that can be shown, what are the inputs that has to be given. We gave them, we identified the case studies in advance. We saw what are the assessment methods that can be used, and we put it in. When it's all put down in paper, it becomes so much more simpler, right? Okay, so we gave them a big project, called as a game changer, which was the whole class took up this particular project, and they had to, they had to do this project. And it was a very interesting experience for us also, and for the students also. It was a wonderful experience. Okay, so this is one sample that I wanted to show you all. Okay, just a second. So this is with respect to sports marketing. Okay, let me show something. Many people say that okay, this is all possible with respect to, probably with theory papers, but what do we do with problem oriented papers, or what do we do with technological papers or things like that? This is one lesson plan that I did for a subject called SAPM, that is security analysis and portfolio management. I'm sure all of you have many of the management teachers, management faculty must have definitely handled this paper sometime during your experience. Okay, so I gave them a list of activities, planned it in advance, and gave them a list of activities. You can just quickly go through. As the first activity that I gave them was to understand the investor profile of people. Okay, how, as a portfolio manager, you need to give different different kinds of portfolio for different investors, depending upon their risk tolerance, depending upon their age group, depending upon their investment objectives and things like that. Okay, like that, for each topic, I had given a particular activity, I had given them the marks, they given them the deadline, everything was put down on paper. A technical analysis, how to do a technical analysis, how to do a country analysis. I even identified what is the country that each of them have to take up and things like that. Okay, it's just that, that little bit of extra efforts that we need to take, which once we take it, like for instance, this thing, I've been using it for the past 3-4 years. Okay, aram se you can use it, and I've also given, work for each groups, like I've asked them to prepare the MCQs, I've asked them each group to prepare short answers. So it's not just the activities alone, they also get to learn learn the concept, learn the subject also using all these activities. Okay, so this is what I was telling you about, wherein we ran a mock mutual fund inside the class itself. Okay, it was a live mutual fund that they did. They even created pitch documents and things like that, and they just simply enjoyed the whole process. In the process they learnt about what is meant by they learnt about all the concepts relating to mutual funds. They also learned and also it's a fun, plus the subject also was taught to them. Okay, so like this, for every subject, you can always prepare a proper lesson plan, and you can always implement it. You can use technology to the maximum extent possible, and with the help of technology, there's a lot of things that can be done in classes, in situations. You can give them you can identify and give them a lot of value added courses, like say for instance, we have something known as an interdisciplinary certificate program, wherein every student has to take up a short term course offered by some other department. Okay, so this helps them to have diverse interests, develop their diverse interests. We have something known as a finishing school in our college, which is given for the final year students. We have a beginning school, which is given to the first year students in our college. Okay, so I've just taken my college as an example here, because if it can be done in our college, it can be done anywhere, right? Isn't it? So that was the idea. You can give them a lot of summer vocational courses can be provided. We run what we call as an MOP bazaar in our college, which is totally absolutely a student's initiative. So that way, they get to know about how to run a business, how to and take care of a business, how to source the materials, how on that particular day, how to do crisis management and things like that. We also focus on our bit of what we call as R&D, because ours is not a predominantly ours is predominantly a UG college, so we don't have much of research. But we ensure that research is a part of everyday activity in the college. I'm not talking about research, that high funder PhD kind of research, which is very limited in our college. But we want to bring in the culture of or research, or the research climate in every individual in our college. Now, how does all this happen is, we have something known as open circles in our college, wherein let's say every month on the last Friday of the month, we form groups in our college, teacher groups, faculty groups, and we share, there is a sharing of best practices which happens. We openly share about what we did, what kind of activity we did in our department. We learn from what others did in other departments, so that we can integrate all this and bring it into we can have a synergy. We can learn from others, we can share knowledge from what we have gained to others. We can also learn from others. So an integrative approach is used in our institution, which I'm sure has helped us to a great extent. So I just want to finish up with this. I'm sure this was a WhatsApp message that I'm sure all of y'all would have read and enjoyed, and would have said, yes, I'm the it's me kind of thing. So I just wanted to finish up with this. When there were three people waiting in front of the heaven doors, God said, there is entry for only one person. The first person said, I'm a priest, and entire life I've been praying to you. The second person said, I'm a doctor, and entire life I have been serving my patients. The third person said, I'm a teacher, and apart from my job of teaching, I've done so many duties during my entire life, such as, right from attendance record, result analysis, official work, blah, 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 blah. So much is going on and on and on and on and on. So, of course, there are so many things that we do, Finally, God said, please stop. I feel deep pity after listening to your duties. You have already lived through hell on earth. Welcome to heaven. The message ended with saying, dedicated to all those who think teaching is an easy job. It's definitely not an easy job, but that's the reason why we are here. That's the reason why teaching is considered to be a noble profession. So here we are to teach, coach, mentor, nurture, and more importantly, inspire the students. So that's about it. This is what I wanted to communicate to you as how you can integrate into your pedagogy by, I know all this is there, but all that we need to do is spend some a few days into preparing our lesson plans, into searching and finding out ways by which we can inspire our students, how we can nurture our students, how we can imbibe these 21st century skills into the pedagogy. We just put in our mind into that, I'm sure it's going to definitely work wonders. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So if I can definitely take some questions.
Thank you, Uttara ma'am. A very mind-blowing session, in a short span of time, you have loaded with lot of information. Really, it was good. You first started with what is it all about teaching and about 21st century of students, and then e-learning environment, and then you went on to pedagogy methods and what are all the techniques, and finally you ended up with your college case. It was amazing. You're doing a wonderful job. It was really amazing. And then finally, it was like a very good note. You said that irrespective of the subject, we can adapt different methods. So that was really a very informative message. So that was really nice. And finally,
thank you so much, Priya, for the opportunity.
Yeah, and the WhatsApp forwarded. Yes, enough of what teachers do. That's true. Really, very nice. So you have done an extensive work, and I thank you with on behalf of all the academicians. I thank you. So I extend my thanks on with my whole heart for doing such an extensive work and touching upon all the areas. Thank you so much, Sutra ma'am.
Thank you so much. I hope it was useful.
Yeah, very much. And ma'am prepared the PPT yesterday and she shared me. And today morning she ensured is that this is okay for this topic. And she wanted to ensure that the topics are not repeated. So because it is going to be the fourth day session. She doesn't want the topic to be repeated. So such an extensive work. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Priya, for the opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Participants, do you have any questions? So in the chat, you can see, ma'am, very good job. Okay. We appreciate for your efforts. So nice to see all these things, ma'am. Seriously.
Everyone could feel a teacher in you. So it is like, come on, we are all sailing on the same
page. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, of course. So it's an excellent presentation, ma'am. So the chat box, you can see.
Any questions, participants? You can.
I hope you have received the feedback link. Kindly fill the form. So, ma'am.
Shall we wind up? Okay.
Yes.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, what is the time of schedule, ma'am?
So tomorrow we don't have the program, sir.
Saturday and Sunday, we have it on Monday, sir.
Monday, sir.
Monday. Okay, ma'am. Okay. Thank you.
We want to have a work-life balance.
Myself, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Myself, Dr. Anbalagan, on behalf of the Alagappa University.
Yes, sir.
Really wonderful section, ma'am. This section really used a lot of information about in this section's presentation, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, ma'am. So, any more questions, participants? I hope all have enjoyed this session. So, thanks a lot, ma'am, Uttara ma'am.
Yeah,
thanks for coming.
So much.
Thanks for your extensive work, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes. Ma'am, Priya, ma'am.
Yeah.
Will you wind up the session,
ma'am? Yeah. I'll leave.